Hello, I'm Christopher Walker with Closely Observed English. In this video we're going to look at how to write a review for the Cambridge First and First for Schools exams. The review is one of the options that might appear in part 2 of the writing paper. So, as always, read the task carefully and underline the content points that you have to include. Reviews usually include a few specific points that you have to cover. Remember, as you're writing your review or thinking of what you're going to review, that factual accuracy is not graded in the exam. If you want to make up your film or your book, do that. Sometimes it's better than actually thinking of a film or a book that fits the rubric. Don't forget to offer your recommendation as well. If you finish your review and you haven't said whether you recommend the book or not, then you failed in writing your review. And then keep the word limit more or less 140 to 190 words. You can go a bit over, and sometimes it's a good idea to go just over 200. Don't go under 140, because that will leave you too little space to actually develop your ideas. So let's think about the target reader. Who wants to read your review? Well, the target reader is somebody who is trying to decide if this is the right source of entertainment for them. They need enough information to make an informed decision. Their own decision might not be the same as yours. If you didn't like something, but you give reasons for your disapproval or dislike, the target reader might disagree with those from a personal standpoint and still choose to read the book or watch the movie that you talked about. Don't spoil the plot for them. If you can avoid giving away the twist or saying who murdered whom, then that would be a good idea. Keep an air of mystery. And keep your review entertaining. If your writing is boring, the target reader will simply look elsewhere in the real world, so you need to hold their interest. Here's an example. You see this announcement on your school's Facebook page. Have you read a book in which the main character travels to an exotic location? Okay, so we're looking at a book review, but we're already looking at a specific kind of book. Write us a review of the book telling us where the main character went, and if you think the writer did a good job describing the location. So those are the 2 content points. And then finally, tell us whether or not you would recommend this book to other people. You have to write your review based on that. So really you want a way to grab the target reader's attention at the start of the review. Think of a dramatic opening, something that will lead to a question that the target reader wants to answer as they read the rest of the review. And for the structure, it would make sense to use 3 or 4 paragraphs here, and I definitely recommend using a title for your review. I've seen this happen so many times, where somebody has written a review, but they completely forgot to mention what they were reviewing. Sometimes they mentioned it in the final paragraph, sometimes they didn't mention it at all. So put the review as the heading, and then go from there. So then the first paragraph would grab the reader's attention. The next 2 would develop the content points required in the rubric. And if it makes sense, you can combine these 2 points into one paragraph, but only if they are very closely related. And then the final paragraph would offer your recommendation, giving enough detail about the book, for example, that will allow the target reader to make up their own minds. So here's an example, and I came up with the idea of a book called The Lady from Lagos by Edward Wright. It doesn't exist. That's hardly the point. So the first paragraph leads us into the story a little bit. It gives us some background and it asks a question. It's a rhetorical device so that the target reader will go, ooh, what's next? And they want to read on. So the next paragraphs develop the content points. They give some information to allow the target reader to decide if this is the kind of book they want to read. And then the final paragraph will give the recommendation, maybe with a proviso to say something a little bit negative about it, that it's not perfect, but, and then lead in. And there we go. That's the structure that we could use. So let's look at the marks then. In terms of the content, if you cover all the content points and you develop them with detail, there's no reason why you can't get 5 out of 5. We want the target reader to be fully informed. So just come up with something that fits the rubric. Then for communicative achievement, You want to assume that the target reader already knows something about the books if they're reading a book review. So comparing this book to others is one thing that you could do to help them feel fully informed. You could say, if you like Dan Brown, then you'll love this, something along those lines. Think about all the things that the target reader wants to know about. And so you want to talk about the rubric, so that's the location, how well it's described, but you do still need to mention the plot and the characters, as long as you don't spoil the story. And this is a great chance to use some nice adjectives to help inform the target reader, but again, they always need to be appropriate to the task. In terms of organisation, each paragraph should have one idea and it needs to be developed well. Think about some of the linking words you want to use. Don't simply use the typical linking words, first, second, third, that you might find in, for example, an essay. Have something a bit more dramatic. If you want to show how a character overcame a problem, you could say, despite, the character was still able to, and then you say, And thirdly, it's a good idea to vary the length of your sentences in a review. Short sentences have dramatic impact, but too many will make it seem like you've written your review for a child. So in terms of the language, you want to go for less common adjectives. For example, the story was interesting, the main character was very good. It's very basic. How about this dramatic, unpredictable tale was made even more memorable thanks to the introduction of a truly original main character. So here we've chosen a few adjectives that really help describe specifically this book. Saying the story was interesting, the main character was very good is true for almost all books I know, or at least the books that I've stuck with. So you need to be a little bit more specific and dynamic. So you need to be creative. In fact, it's a must in a review. So what can you do? Well, I recommend reading as many reviews as you can. In English language magazines especially, better than in your own native language, because that way you'll pick up some of the adjectives and the descriptive phrases that review writers use. There are lots of websites out there. If you know of any really good English language websites for book reviews and movie reviews that are suitable for FCE students, please share them in the comments below this video. And speaking of the comments below this video, in this lesson we've looked at how you might write a book review. So I've got a task for you. What was the last book that you read which was truly memorable? Would you recommend it to others? If so, write your recommendation in the comments below and we'll have a look at the grammar and vocabulary that you've used. Try and find some ways in which we can improve it or tidy it up. Sharing your ideas like this will help lots of people. So, until next time, thank you very much. Goodbye.